today's course. I tried to be creative with it, didn't I, John? We tried to make this a little bit more stimulating, so I'm going to say it in the tune of trademarks, copyrights, intellectual property. Oh my! Yeah, we are trying, but it's an important topic, but we're trying to just spice it up a little bit. Today's instructor is not myself. It is John Rabil. He is the owner of Ella, which is Entrepreneur Legal Advisors. And John, if you don't mind, I'm sorry, ELA. I keep doing that because if you go to John's website or the ELA website, you're going to see an elephant there. And then you'll get why I did that. So if you could go to the next slide, and everyone repeat after me, we'll say the oath, the Empower People oath. I, Tiffany Joy Green, do solemnly swear to accept the lifelong obligation to hone my superhero powers and apply those superhero powers to the good of the people I serve. I will promote and add to the ongoing success of Empower People, its members, and the people, organizations, and communities it serves. I will help prepare the next generation of superheroes. I am driven to be a positive change agent for those I serve and interact with. And one more step. Hands on the hips, look up into the sky, superhero pose, and you will now feel empowered. And at any given moment you want to feel that empowerment, I encourage you to strike the pose, Rose. So, John, without further ado, I'll pass the baton off to you.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany. So like she mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about intellectual property and why it's important to your business. So a few things to try and take away: understanding the different types of IP you might have, why it's important to your business, and then how you can protect your intellectual property. So I'm John Rabil. I own Entrepreneur Legal Advisors, or ELA. We're a law firm that works with small businesses and entrepreneurs. And we do a lot of work with companies around setting up, protecting their intellectual property. So helping make sure they can recognize it, what type of asset it might be, and then how they can protect it going forward. So all intellectual property is not necessarily created equal. It's important to have an understanding of what it is, what its value might be to your company, and then how you can protect it. So what is intellectual property? It's essentially just assets that you've created for your company. Like anything else, a good example is the Apple logo. Everyone recognizes it. That's valuable. It has a value to the company. It's an asset. So generally, with small businesses, intellectual property is trademarks, copyrights, or trade secrets. They're patents as well. So you want to be able to understand what they are, be able to recognize them, and then, like I mentioned, protect them. So I get this question a lot, or hear this comment a lot, well, my business doesn't have any intellectual property. So every single business has some intellectual property. Depending on your industry or your business, what it is varies, but as a baseline, every company has some sort of intellectual property. It's important to their company and they want to be able to protect it. Okay. Common types of intellectual property for small businesses: trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, and patents, like I mentioned. So trademarks are, logos, slogans, images, graphics that you may have created that help identify your brand or product line or your organization as a whole. If you're looking at this, like the Empower People logo on Tiffany's screen is an example of a trademark. So oftentimes small businesses have some sort of logo, graphic, slogan, something they've created that they use as a way to identify their business or their products or services. Copyrights are, in the small business world, typically something that's been taken and written down. So think about manuals, best practices, guides, and depending on your business, you could be creating a significant amount of those things, and you want to make sure that you are protecting them or understanding how you can utilize them. Trade secrets are typically internal information that you don't want the general public to see. So client list, sales strategies, marketing plans, strategic plans, all these things that you've created for your company as a way to give you a competitive edge or differentiate yourself from the competition. And you don't want that information being shared publicly. Obviously, it's something to your benefit and you want to protect it. Patents are usually for designs or inventions that people come up with. And so you can protect those as well, make sure no one can steal them or use them. So how do you protect your intellectual property? I think the first step is you need to be able to identify it. So trademarks as a starting point, you identify what you're looking to trademark or protect. Let's say a logo. It represents your brand. It's what you want to push out to the public. It's how you want everyone to be able to find you and know what you're about. So you go about protecting that by registering it. Typically, with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, or there is a state option. It's not as important anymore with like a global world that we live in. And so trademarks you can protect by registering. Federally, that will give you nationwide coverage to prevent anyone from using trademarks similar to the one that you've got registered, and then sets you up to protect yourself and your brand underneath of all of that. Copyrights, you protect those by registering them as well. Another thing about copyrights is you're automatically granted a copyright in any work that you put down, let's say on paper or create. So without doing anything, you get copyright protection on it. You can then take the next step and get a registered copyright on it. So the registered copyright is what will allow you to actually go after someone who's violating your copyright. So you need some registration done in order to, let's say, file a lawsuit for damages if someone's taken your manual and is selling it somewhere. So with copyrights in particular, you want to think about what they are and what their value could be. So you would get copyright protection on a blog you create and put on your website, but you likely don't want to register copyright protection on every single blog you create. It'd get expensive and time consuming. And, if someone's taking some work out of your blog and sharing it, it's a business decision on how far you're going to press defending that and trying to go after someone who's taken it. Trade secrets, these are the internal documents we talked about. Business plans, client lists, all of those things. You're looking at protecting those by using NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and confidentiality agreements mostly. And so you want to protect them both internally with employees, contractors that are working for you, and externally with vendors, third parties who might have access to that information to provide services to your business. So you have them sign a non-disclosure agreement. It's stating that you own the intellectual property, that they're not going to use it for anything else, and that way you can keep it in-house so the public doesn't get their hands on it. Because if you don't take the right steps to protect that information, it gets out publicly, there's not going to be much you can do to prevent someone from using it. And then patents, you file a patent, with the federal government and they approve it, and then you've got protection on your patent. All right. So to summarize a little bit of that, it's important to understand when you've created intellectual property. If you've created a detailed business plan, you've just developed a trade secret. So you want to recognize that. You want to be careful about who gets their hands on that information and what type of protections you've put in place before they're able to see it. Same with sales plans, client lists, customer lists. With trademarks, when you create a logo or a slogan or something that you're going to use to identify your brand, to identify a product, your company, you want to know that's what you're going to use it for. And then you want to think about how you're going to use it and whether or not you want to take the next step of registering all of that with the trademark office so you get the full-on trademark protection from that. Copyrights, I think copyrights tend to be one of the areas where people have a lot of questions about whether or not to actually file for the registered copyright. So oftentimes businesses create a significant amount of copyrighted material. It's stuff on your website. It's, like I said, blogs, articles you may write. You put out a lot of times without knowing it, a lot of copyrighted material. I think the question becomes what you're going to do with that, and then do you want to or need to register that federally to get that stepped up level of protection that'll allow you to defend against people using it and take action if needed beyond like a threatening letter. And then patents, if you've got a design product that you've created, then you want to start thinking about getting patent protection on that and preventing people from creating something similar that would be competition to you. So it's, I think, important to understand what the types of intellectual property are. Then you want to think about what type of asset they're going to be to your company, how important they're going to be, what the value in them is, and then you can make the decision of how you're going to properly protect them. So to keep using my same example, so you recognize that you've created some copyrighted material with a blog, but it's likely not extremely valuable in and of itself to the company and probably not worth a registration on that. But then you create a logo that's probably extremely important to your company. And then you want to think about, all right, let's get a trademark protection on this. That way, no one can create something similar or that would be confusing around it. And same thing applies to patents. And then the trade secrets is the other area where companies have created a lot of trade secrets. And you just want to be careful who gets access to that information and what type of documents you make them sign before they can access it, such as the confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements. And so I think IP plays into promoting the mission and vision of a company pretty well. You think about trademarks being logos, slogans, and that's a way companies get out to the public and promote what they're about, what their mission is, what their vision is. And so all of that in combination, pushes on the purpose, the mission that the company stands for. And so they can be a really nice, important way to let the world know what you're about.
Thank you, John. That was really good. Now we're going to turn it into our Q&A segment. So for those on Facebook land, since you're watching on Facebook, that means you are not a member. Why not? Join for free by going to empowerpeople.org/join, which is in the comments, and join for free so you too can take part in the Q&A session. But until next time, we will see you later. Let's evolve together.